The final 8 of the Champions League are set in stone, and all that's left is the draw until we know who will face who, until we know what the paths to the final will look like. I'm excited. Are you excited? I'm also Adrian, by the way. This is UCL This Week, and let's get straight to it as there is a lot to talk about this week. If you wanted passages of play with silky passing and plenty of goals, this wasn't the Tuesday fixture for you. But I will say, Arsenal hosting Porto was certainly an exciting one. This match was an absolute scrap, especially in that second half, but it was entertaining in its own right. Sure, the Twitter tacticos and some self-proclaimed football purists would complain about how often the match was broken up, but as a neutral, when it comes to pure entertainment value, this match had a ton of it, in my opinion. I enjoy one of these matches now and then. However, it was sad to see the blatant corruption in this match, as the referee was the twin brother of Leandro Trossard, as you can see here. How could UEFA allow this to happen, favoring the English clubs? Martin Odegaard was brilliant for Arsenal in this match, as he was constantly gliding around opponents with the ball, and he did so in setting up Arsenal's first goal of this tie, stepping around his man, then threading the ball through to who? The referee's brother, Leandro Trossard, and he finished really well. Good movement from the Belgian, though some sleepy defending from Porto on that occasion. That will have annoyed Conceição for sure. There were moments now and then from each side, including Arsenal putting the ball in the back of the net. Nice dink of a finish from Odegaard. Reminded me of, you probably saw that clip of Lionel Messi chipping the ball over a dude who was laying on the ground in MLS. Same kind of energy at least. But Odegaard chipped it over a few bodies and in, but it didn't count because Kai Havertz barged into Pepe and the keeper along the way, so the goal was disallowed. Also barged into Conceição at one point. Nothing malicious from Havertz, but as we know, when you touch the keeper, it's likely that you don't have a case. Clear contact, Diogo Costa down, no goal for Odegaard. Speaking of going down, in the 4th minute of stoppage time, Odegaard went down after a slap on the shoulder from Pepe. For me, nothing there. Wasn't enough for a penalty. And you didn't see much fight from the Arsenal players or coaching staff either when the referee didn't give it. So again, the right call, I think. Now, after a full-blooded 90 minutes, extra time was a bit boring comparatively, wasn't it? Granted, it makes sense as the players look pretty tired, but often that can lead to some great opportunities, you know? Tired legs lead to opportunities, but not really on this occasion. Like the commentator put it, it was like two boxers in the 12th round. Both teams were absolutely shattered. And Porto actually controlled the ball more than Arsenal, I found. So it was penalties where Arsenal were perfect and Porto weren't. That's the way she goes, right? Galeno had his save, just a fingertip onto the post from Raya. In fact, the final 3 penalties from Porto were close calls. Even Grujić's was nearly saved by Raya, but found its way in. Credit to Raya, jumped the same way each time and made 2 saves. Maybe 1.5 saves, after one of them just brushed his fingertips before it hit the post and stayed out. Arsenal through to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2010, breaking their streak of 7 consecutive round of 16 eliminations, and they didn't look all that convincing in this tie against Porto. However, I think that's more a credit to Porto than it is a mark against Arsenal. You really have to give a lot of credit to Conceição for, in my opinion, beating Arteta tactically for the most part. And remember, doing so, beating someone tactically doesn't necessitate playing brilliant flowing football against Arsenal, just simply nullifying them. Over the 2 legs, Arsenal had an expected goals of just 1.4. That's across 210 minutes of play. It was a bit of an oil and water matchup, kind of the worst nightmare for Arteta. I think that against a team that plays a little more open, we'll see Arsenal do much better. When they come against these teams that sit back and slow the game down, looking to hit you in transition, they don't do as well. We've seen how they have done against the top sides in the Premier League, like Liverpool and Man City. So for me, depending on the draw, I think they can be a semi-final side. But my only question mark over them is, will it get to them? They haven't been at this point since 2010. They're a young side. There's a lot of pressure on them. They just slipped past Porto, but can they keep their heads in the next round? It'll be interesting to see. This was a fun match, man. Were either side perfect? No. In fact, in general, the Champions League this season hasn't exactly seemed like the quality level has been spectacularly high. Maybe that's a stretch. Maybe it's just that at this point, when Inter, Atletico, Borussia Dortmund, and PSV are still yet to play, there doesn't seem to be a clear favorite. Remember, I try to give my thoughts after these matches, immediately after, then try to hide the fact that there was an edit, which I won't be able to do this time. So who knows? Anyway, enough of that. We saw some nice attacking football from Barcelona in this match, and now and then we saw Victor Osimhen looking like he could cause issues in behind Barcelona's back line, but there was just a disconnect there between himself and those trying to feed him, whether that be from the wing, Anguissa, Traore from midfield, etc. Osimhen was kind of shut out by Barcelona's back line in the end, who actually looked quite solid. I have to say, Araujo and Koundé have had some patches this season, some bad ones. I mean, the whole team has, to be fair, but they looked great in this match. The man who really caught my eye, however, was babyface Cubarsí, who has a baby face because he is a baby. In fact, 17 years old, starting in the Champions League for the first time despite being a starter for every La Liga match since January 21st. What a talent. Barcelona lost just once with him in the starting 11. The other loss he's been a part of was in the Copa del Rey, but he came on as a sub. Anyway, that aside, Barcelona were cutting Napoli open for fun at times, especially in that second half, as both Rafinha and Lamine Yamal were massive quandaries for Napoli's defense. On top of that, though, Napoli's midfield was bypassed far too easily at times. Before that, though, and speaking of Yamal and Rafinha, they were nightmares all match long. Yamal has made the right side his own. He owns it, wrestling it from Rafinha, while the Brazilian actually looked quite nice playing in that left sort of half space. Good move from Xavi. And that opener from Fermin was a great attacking move from Barcelona, with Rafinha cutting it back to Fermin to finish. Great move from Barca, and their attack in general looked nice. You had Rafinha on the left half space causing chaos, Lewandowski through the middle, but Fermin also making attacking runs through the middle from midfield, Gundogan doing the same while causing some chaos with his distribution, and Yamal taking on all comers down that right side. Yamal with a nice run before finding Rafinha, who hit the post, and Cancelo converted for Barca's second goal. The third goal from Barcelona was something I think their supporters had missed for a long time. It would have had them standing and clapping. Yes, the first was well worked, but Barcelona's third truly felt like we were watching Barcelona from a decade or so ago. Incredible passing from Gundogan to Sergio Roberto, and then putting it on a plate for Lewandowski to convert for 3-1. What I loved after that, however, was a moment when Lamine Yamal slipped when recovering the ball, stood up, and immediately nutmegged Matias Oliveira with a cute little flicked back heel. Oliveira took him out, of course. Yellow card. So strong stuff from Barcelona, and while they did lose, it's not as if Napoli were completely useless. They did have opportunities to score in this match. They took one of them, Rachmani with the finish from Politano's cutback, and they felt like they were in it for a moment. But Barcelona took control again for the most part, despite Napoli having some moments in that second half. So across two legs, Barcelona were worthy winners, and they are finding some form now. They haven't lost since that Villarreal disaster back in January, which caused Xavi to resign. And it's not just the results, but these patterns of play that we are seeing now and then. It does make you think, if Xavi was to stick around, and if Barcelona were to get him a proper defensive midfielder, how far could he take this Barcelona team in the next season? There are rumblings that maybe he could go back on his decision and stick around, but we'll have to wait and see. So Barcelona through to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2020, when they were smashed 8-2 by Bayern Munich. Surely they won't draw Bayern. Will they? The battle of outgoing managers? UEFA script writers are working hard on that one, I think. Dortmund got it done in the end. They played a defensive counter-attacking second half, but they were dominated in the first half and were deserving winners against PSV. Thanks to that disallowed goal for Dortmund in the second half, this tie was a bit closer than it should have been. It was one of those offside calls where if Füllkrug hadn't worked out his shoulders this week in the gym, then he probably would have been onside. But offside is offside, I know. As lame as some offside calls can be, like this one was, it's still offside. Right? It felt like this match was dangerously close to PSV finding an equalizer and going to extra time. And speaking of which, PSV nearly did find that equalizer as Luc de Jong had the miss of the century, man. My goodness. And in the 94th minute as well, moments before Marco Reus made it 2-0 on the night and comfortable on aggregate, the ball fell to Luc de Jong and he somehow stabbed it over the bar. One of those moments where it's harder to miss than it is to score. And somehow Luc de Jong, who has been in such insane goal-scoring form this season, failed to convert. Those are the margins you are dealing with when it comes to how close this tie was. Even in the first leg, with PSV having the better play overall, but ultimately getting awarded a penalty that was never really a penalty. Then in the second leg, they go blow for blow with Dortmund, even on the night, but Luuk de Jong can't finish off the opportunity to send it into extra time. What happens then? Babadi coughs up the ball at the back, leaving Marco Reus one-on-one with Benitez, and Marco Reus's class comes through, and he gets the goal. 2-0 for Dortmund there. Jadon Sancho with the first one, by the way. Another good game for him. That's 2 matches in a row that he's played well. But man, that De Jong mistake wasn't the only decent opportunity that PSV had to equalize in the second half. Lozano also hit a rocket that went off of the post. There was the Bakayoko strike that Kobel parried wide. Then, from the ensuing corner, De Jong's header went wide. There were definitely moments when they were just a goal away that they almost took. Slight margins, as I said. Difference makers like Hummels and Reus for Dortmund. So they win 2-0 on the night. Reus and Sancho with the goals. 3-1 on aggregate. So Dortmund advanced, and I think it's fair to say that given how their season has gone, they're one of the teams that the rest of the draw might be looking at and thinking, you know what? It won't be easy against Dortmund, but I back us to have a decent chance of beating them. Again, this is the Champions League. Anything can happen over 2 legs, but when simply considering the rest of the pot and how Dortmund have been uninspiring at times under Terzic, moving on to the semifinals will be a bit difficult for them, you feel. But hey man, they're through. As for PSV, a campaign for them to be proud of, still Champions League round of 16 for the first time since 2016, and still undefeated in the Eredivisie. So hey, Peter Bosch, you're not doing so bad. Take your chances, folks. Take your chances. Like I said after the previous match in this match review in the UCL this week, all of those misses from Inter, Arnautovic, could come back to bite them because the Metropolitano is an absolute fortress. And the last time that Atleti lost a Champions League knockout match at home, 1997. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know right there. And what can I say about this match is that this is by far the most uncomfortable that I have seen Inter in a long time, which again was to be expected given the venue they were playing at. I mean, I guess it's not technically just the venue itself. Played at the Cauldron before because, as mentioned, those fellas haven't lost at home in the Champions League knockout stages since 1997. Anyway, Atleti definitely came out hot and were looking the better side, but DeMarco opened the scoring for Inter in this one, except the lead lasted for literally 2 minutes as Griezmann volleyed home on the spin to make it 1-1 on the night. 2-1 Inter on aggregate at that point. Then, in the second half, Inter looked like they were really struggling and playing a bit too defensively. Griezmann had a huge chance in the 51st minute that he failed to convert. It was a relatively tame effort for Sommer. 8 minutes later, Morata with a miss, and it felt like a goal was coming for Atletico. They just didn't have that cutting edge. Bring on Memphis Depay off of the bench. That was a huge boon to Atleti in their attack. He essentially won the match for them. As soon as he came on, he was causing problems all over the place for Inter and forcing some great saves out of Sommer. Correa, Riquelme. I mean, Riquelme himself could have won it for Atleti as well. He could have killed this game off, but instead, in putting the ball over the bar, he killed off Simeone on the sidelines. Poor guy. Rest in peace, man. But it's not as if Inter didn't have opportunities themselves. They could have gone 2 goals ahead before Depay's well-taken equalizer on aggregate, which, by the way, nice pass from Koke, incredible first touch from Depay to wrong foot the defender, and then a clean finish from Depay as well, past Sommer. But yeah, as I was saying, Thuram could have won it in the 76th minute, but he blazed it over the bar. Just needed a composed finish, and he provided nothing close to that. Could have killed the tie there. Another missed chance from Inter in this Champions League tie. One of a few chances to kill off the game in the second half, as Barella had another one later on. But to be fair to him, he was out of energy and hit a safe shot into the hands of Oblak. He was taken off moments later. And then in extra time, Inter seemed to get a second wind. Yes, Depay was still causing issues, and if it wasn't for Sommer making incredible saves, Atleti probably would have ended this game before the shootout. But where Inter wasn't providing much towards the end of the 90 minutes, they were at least providing some moments in the attack in extra time. You had Thuram with another miss when he had a free header and he put it wide somehow. Then there was Lautaro with a header at the near post from a corner. Nope, put it wide. A guy who's been clinical all season long had a horror show of a match. You go to penalties and it's Sommer versus Oblak. Huge matchup in the goalkeeping department, even though Oblak hasn't had great luck in past shootouts. Well, this time He was great. 2 saves from Oblak and 1 from the literal penalty spot, according to Lautaro Martinez. The way he looked at the spot as if it had done something wrong after he hit one of the smelliest penalties I've ever seen in my life. Horrible stuff from Lautaro Martinez. Everyone kicked from the same spot, my friends. It wasn't the spot. Atleti, on the other hand, their penalties were great. Well, Saul's was saved by a trailing leg of Sommer, but the rest were great. Depay's was wired into the roof of the net, audacious from him. Correa's hit with power, off the bar and in. Riquelme's was just your average vanilla missionary, get the job done into the corner type of penalty. But hey, that's all you need. And with that, no more Italian teams in the Champions League. Meanwhile, there are no less than 3 Spanish sides left in the competition. The big 3. Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, and Barcelona. And I think that Inzaghi will be a little bit unhappy with how he set up Inter to play on the counter so much in this game. They seem like they were a bit afraid to take the match to Atleti at times. Like they were afraid to get out of their own end and really go at them. And they showed that fear with their poor finishing in this game. But again, credit to Atleti for playing what was an amazing game of football. They were fantastic on the night. They are unbeatable at the Metropolitano when you get to the knockout stages. And with Depay in this kind of form lately, coupled with Griezmann in the attack and Correa off of the bench, Morata streaky, but more good than bad lately, they're a team you will want to avoid in the next round. All right, guys, so the draw is on Friday once the Conference and Europa League matches have concluded, so we will know the paths to the final right after that. I thank you once again for joining me. My name is Adrian, and have a great weekend. Ciao.